And it's great to see Obama, Biden, Kane, Schmuckler on the same side. That, to me, as your Democratic Party chair, shows coordination, similar message, and vigor on behalf of the volunteers in the campaign. So that makes me feel very, very good. So let me talk a few things about what has been going on in Virginia, where we are, a little bit about the issues. You're all here, so I don't need to convince anybody here in this room about the ticket that we want to support and make sure we re-elect our president and elect Tim Kaine to the United States Senate. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but there are some issues that we should address timely. And then we should talk with Andrea about what we need to do over these next, 73 days now, to make sure we do indeed win and re-deliver our 13 electoral votes for the President of the United States. So let me give you a quick update. We are on what we're referring to as our Road to Charlotte tour. Of course, the national convention begins September 4th, and where we nominate the President and Joe Biden. And we'll be hearing from our United States Senate candidate there, Tim Kaine, as well. So our tour began in Virginia Beach on Monday. Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads area is extremely important for the Democratic ticket this fall. We have a great congressional candidate there by the name of Paul Hirschfield, very well known in the communities, running a very sophisticated campaign. That seat is very competitive. It's gone back and forth. We won it in 2008. Republicans took it back in 2010 in a tough election year for Democrats. And we plan on taking it back in 2012. Now, Hampton Roads, of course, has a very large military presence in Hampton Roads. And in 2008, Franklin, we were running against a bona fide American war hero, John McCain. I mean, nobody ever could challenge his credentials with respect to his heroism and his suffering in the military. But this time, we have a bona fide commander-in-chief. And we have the President of the United States who did indeed get Osama bin Laden and has been leading our military overseas and helping our veterans when they come home. Talking about veterans issues with respect to making sure they get an education with the expansion of the GI Bill, also jobs and health care services. So we have some issues, and we have a record now that will resonate with our military in the Hampton Roads area. So we're putting a lot of resources in Hampton Roads, and we feel real good about that for helping Tim, President, and the congressional candidate. From there, we went over to Smithfield. We have the 4th congressional candidate by the name of Ella Ward. She's running in a race, and we want to support every one of our congressional candidates. We're very proud to have a Democrat running in every one of our 11 congressional districts. And it's really important to have a candidacy in every congressional district to make sure we get all our votes out and organized in every congressional district. A vote in Waynesboro is just as important as a vote in Alexandria or Richmond or Virginia Beach for our statewide candidates. And so I'm very pleased that we're organizing in every community in the Commonwealth. And so we have Ella Ward's running in the 4th congressional district, African-American woman. We have gender running, and she's a longtime city councilwoman from Chesapeake City of Chesapeake, so she has great credibility and has been an elected official. So great race there. We have Richmond. From there to Richmond, we have Wayne Powell running against Eric Cantor. We're not going to give Eric Cantor a free ride. Wayne Powell's running a very aggressive campaign. And the good news is that Congressman Cantor just accepted an invitation to a debate, something he hadn't done since 2002. 10 years since he accepted a debate from a Democratic challenger. So that's a victory of sorts, and so we're really, Wayne's really taking it to Eric Cantor, and so that's a good challenge race. From there we went to Charlottesville. We were in Charlottesville for a couple of press conferences yesterday, emphasizing women's rights, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But there we have Brigadier General John Douglas, who has a lengthy 25-year military career, Undersecretary of the Navy under Bill Clinton, He's been to Kosovo. He has a tremendous experience overseas. So pleased he's running. We're not conceding any of this military. The Republicans talk about being strong in the military, and we need candidates that have that type of experience in the military to talk about democratic values. And he's terrific. In fact, I spent time with John last night, and he was asked about the gay marriage, and he said, I was in the military. When you're standing in a foxhole with someone, you just want to know they're Americans, and they're patriotic, and they got, they lock and load the rifle, and they're going to be able to be with you side by side. And we fought for religious freedom. And if a church wants to say one way or the other whether or not they're going to recognize or perform a gay marriage, that's one thing. But in a civil service with the Commonwealth of Virginia, all services and all sexual orientation should be recognized. And so he gave a very strong answer with respect to that gay marriage question last night, and based on his military experience in fighting for religious freedom. So, he's just he's a terrific candidate. So, all that being said, we're traveling the Commonwealth to make sure that we're supporting all of our candidates. And of course, right here we have Andy, who I've met numerous times and listened to him speak, and he brings a tremendous amount of intellect to this race, and it's great to be challenging, Congressman Goodlatte. So I'm not sure if they've had the opportunity to have a debate or not. I think Goodlatte accepted a debate.
He accepted it, but he hasn't scheduled it.
He hasn't.
He's really looking scared.
Except you got to schedule. Let's tell the Congressman you got to schedule it and actually have it. John Douglas yesterday talked about he had a debate in Atlanta with Robert Hurt, the incumbent, and Hurt didn't show up. So John had the podium for 2 hours, and he was able to talk for 2 hours. That's the wealth of his knowledge and expertise in so many areas. He talked for 2 hours and got a great response. Now, he'd love to be able to actually debate his opponent instead of himself. But we're working on that, so I'm glad that Andy will have an opportunity to debate Goodlatte. So that's kind of an update there. We have 11 candidates. We have a woman running in the 10th congressional district. Of course, we have 3 incumbents. We have Flacavento, Anthony Flacavento, who's running out in the 9th congressional district. I got the chance to talk to all the 9th district committee chairs the other night, and they're excited about his candidacy as well. He's a wonderful fellow, and we're going to be spending time with him next week. So, that's an update there. And then now the Senate race. Wow. We all know and love Tim Kaine. I had the opportunity to serve with him when I was in the House of Delegates, and he was governor. A terrific individual, a real decent man. That's a heavyweight match, though. You got 2 former governors, and of course, George Allen, having been a senator, we fired him once. Yeah. We got to do it again. But now, a couple of observations on that race. It's dead even. Okay. Now, when they first started polling in that race, it was dead even. Weeks ago, months ago. It's still dead even. Just the poll this week shows it 46 to 46. Oh, wow. Yeah. Those of us who know Tim, we don't understand it. But now, the good news there is that Tim just got barraged with negative ads. Over $8 million worth of negative ads have been run against Tim Kaine. Yet the polls have not budged. It's still dead even. Now, to give you a sense of what $8 million on television means is when Tim ran in 2005 for governor, he spent about 10. Entire campaign. And they've already spent $8 million against him. So, a couple of things. The cost of these campaigns has just gone out of sight. That's a horrible situation we're in right now, but campaign finance reform and the Citizens United case, that's a whole issue. But it goes to show people aren't being moved by those negative ads. And frankly, Virginians haven't been moved by them because they're just untrue. The Chamber of Commerce is going after Tim, and in fact, I saw the president of the Chamber recently, Tom Donahue, and I reminded him that, Tom, the last name's Donahue, Kaine's an Irishman too, let's leave him alone. He wasn't going for it though. And what the Chamber and a lot of these groups are about is 51. they want to take the majority of the United States Senate. It's not about Tim Kaine, but it's about 51. They want to wrestle the majority away from the Democrats. And this is an open seat, so they're going to spend a whole lot of money here in Virginia. But the Chamber of Commerce has been going after Tim. And Virginia voters have rejected it because it's just not true. Going after Tim is, anti-business and so forth. Because under Tim Kaine, he balanced the budgets, invested in education, and Forbes rated Virginia the best state to do business. Now that Forbes isn't the Huffington Post. This is Forbes. And they said, best state to do business out of the 50 states. So, going after Tim Kaine by the Chamber of Commerce just makes no sense. Tim made the critical investments in economic development, job training, education, particularly preschool education. And we were rated the best managed state in the nation, in addition to the best state to do business, and the best state for a child's lifetime success. So those are talking points, y'all, that you need to have with you when you're making phone calls for Tim. Because those attacks are just untrue, and his record as a governor was terrific. And of course, he'll serve us extremely well as a United States Senator. His television ads did begin this week, and he's talking straight into the camera, which is his real strength. And also, this week, he went up with a Spanish television ad. He's fluent in Spanish from his days as a missionary in Honduras, and he did a fabulous job. I don't understand, I didn't understand the entire ad, but there are subtitles. But he's talking a lot about values, about bipartisanship, about working together, common sense, and he does it in a very fluent way, and so that's going to be a really strong ad. So we feel great about that race, folks, but boy, it's dead even. Dan and I were just chatting about this, what's going to happen. Here it is August, it's dead even. How is this going to play out? And my worry is that as the election approaches, these television ads become more and more negative. Tim's ads are positive right now, but there's a lot of third-party groups out there that may come in, and you're going to see some negative ads. My worry, just as a Virginian, as a voter, I want to see everyone vote. The worry here is that if this thing gets negative, it may just serve to suppress the vote, and a lot of folks who are currently undecided may just not decide to come out. They're just going to be sick of it all. What that means, of course, to you all is we need to make sure we get our committed voters out. That 46% that are identified for Tim Kaine, we need to make sure every one of them gets out the votes. And the persuasion may not come as much. I know we're in a persuasion mode right now, which we should be. But ultimately, this thing is going to be about grassroots and getting the vote out. And that's when I segue right into the Obama campaign. I know we have a OFA field organizer over here, and we're just so, it's great to be a battleground state. The Obama campaign has 240 paid staffers. Woo! Yeah. We love OFA. OFA loves us. The president loves Virginia. He's pouring the resources into the Commonwealth of Virginia in field, and I love field. You see all this TV, and it's kind of like the air game and military exercise. But ultimately, what wins the war is the ground troops, and that's the field organizers. So when the field is calling you, we're going to do another canvass. We're going to need another phone call. We got to do it because that's where this election is ultimately going to be won, is on the field, on the doors. And I know some of these areas you can't go door to door. You got to get on the phone. I was making calls for John Douglas last night, and they gave me 2 sheets and goes, well, these are kind of tough sheets. These are independents. And I called through, a lot of left messages, but I encountered the people I did reach. Said, oh, I've always voted. One gentleman, I looked for, the wife's name was on the call sheet, but she wasn't home, so I started chatting with him. He goes, well, actually, we've always voted Republican down the line. I said, oh, really? Got into the conversation. He goes, but this year we're going to vote Democratic. I said, really? Terrific. How about Tim Kaine? Yeah, going to vote Tim Kaine right down the ticket. So, and then the two of the people I got to chat with, I didn't just hang up. We're voting Democratic. Now, that's a landslide for John Douglas, 4-0 last night. Maybe not a scientific sampling, but these were independents that had not been identified. But that's what it just takes. I mean, we're just gonna have to call these people, you know, and I called them, and I checked off the one. That means when the get out the vote effort starts, they're gonna get called again and again to make sure they vote. You know, I always refer to my father's saying, my dad was a great football coach. He had 5 sons, so we all played football, but he was a great football coach. And he always was very fond of saying, football games are not won on the playing fields of November, but on the practice fields of August. And I have adopted that for politics, because it happens, of course, in the elections occur in November, and they are actually won. Elections are won in August, because that's where we cannot wait until November to start identifying who's going to vote for us or putting up yard signs. It has to happen during those summer months, when the dog days of August, and it's hot, sometimes raining, but that's where we have to identify our vote. And then through the course of the next few weeks, we prepare to make sure they get out the vote. So it's really exciting. So again, I'll finish where I started. OFA, Tim Kaine, Andy Schmuckler, you know, we're all in this together. We're working in a coordinated fashion. We're going to make sure we identify each and every one of our vote. We're going to continue to persuade those who are not convinced just yet. But the issues are stark. No, I did neglect the issues. Like one particular issue that's timely that we talked about yesterday, and then I'll conclude, take any questions that you might have. Is this the recent the women's issues, and that's what we were in Charlottesville with yesterday talking about. And there's just so many issues that clarify the choice here in this election. You know, whether it's Ryan's budget plan, the middle class issues, but one particularly distinguishes us, and it's kind of the Republicans keep giving it to us on a silver platter, is the women's issue. You know, Aiken. What he said the other day wasn't wrong. It was just he said it out loud. You know, I get a sense a lot of them believe it. He just said it out loud to a television, because despite all the outrage by some that condemned his comments, it wasn't 24 hours later that the Republican Platform Committee memorialized his beliefs in their platform. You know, they outlawed abortion, even in the cases of rape. Now, there's those of us who wouldn't distinguish forcible or legitimate. But I prosecuted for 7 years, and I prosecuted a lot of rape cases. I don't know how you have a rape without some force, but and legitimate. I mean, his comments were outrageous, and and they follow on, and that's why they're just not isolated. And I want to get that across. These aren't isolated comments. These follow along what we just experienced here in Richmond during the legislative session. Debates about personhood, recognizing, you know, the fetus from conception, the ultrasound, the transvaginal ultrasound, the invasive procedure. You know, that debate now is occurring nationally. And so when Aiken says something crazy like that, you know, he's just putting a voice to a lot of those beliefs. And then they memorialized it in their platform by our governor, by the way, who chairs the platform committee of the Republican National Committee. So, I mean, that is obviously a very clear distinction. It's one that we're going to talk about because the Republicans are talking about it. And, you know, whether it's, you know, outlawing contraception, you know, personhood legislation. That personhood legislation actually wasn't defeated. It's still on the docket in Richmond. They actually haven't even defeated it. So, and it brings it back to the Ryan-Romney radical ticket, because Ryan supported all these bills with Aiken. So there's a link there. I mean, we're not making any stretch at all. There's a link with Ryan and Aiken. So, you know, those, again, that's an issue, as well as many economic issues and education and so forth. The president says so well